Hi, it's Ethan Musolini, the Merchant of Success, and today we are talking about work-life balance, the practical strategies 2.0. And this is a subject that is dear to my heart. In fact, today I attempted to do, not attempted, I actually did a Facebook Live, but then the broadcast had some issues, so left it midway. But what I was talking about is about 2006 or 2007, thereabouts. I felt sickly, I was feeling weakish. So I went to the clinic, they checked the blood, checked everything, nothing. But I was feeling sickly, I was feeling weak and sickly. So the doctor started talking to me, asking me, so what's going on? Tell me about your work and all this. And it occurred to me and to the doctor that indeed I had an extremely busy schedule. I was a training consultant with British Council, then we were running a project of facilitating the next generation of leaders across the continent, which was in about 20 or 23 countries. And so I believe it took a toll on me. So after engaging with the doctor, he told me that, you know what, you need to find a way to rest, to have a break of some kind. So it's not like the work was non-stop, it's just that I never gave myself the opportunity to rest in between when we're not traveling, as an example. So that week, I decided to go and booked myself into a hotel for 2 nights in Entebbe, and I felt good afterwards. And it's at that moment that I remembered and got trained in the idea of work-life balance. So this concept of work-life balance is something that I've tested. So it's a subject that I'm passionate about because I've been a victim and a beneficiary of this concept. So it's then that I knew that, okay, it's good to take care of yourself. Then in the same program, which was called the Interaction Leadership Program, we were taught about the idea of the passion of me, meaning you have to be passionate about yourself. And my coach always talks about making yourself number one, that you have to make yourself a priority. So that's the idea. That's the big container of the conversation we are going to have today. So once again, these are the 5 strands that I look at. I look at 5 strands when I'm presenting content or training. We look at the clarity, the mindset, the strategies, the skill sets, and then the mastery. Under clarity, here's what we need to know about work-life balance. That work-life balance is a deep understanding that no matter what challenges we face in our everyday life, we have the ability to experience life with a sense of power and balance. Again, those are the 2 words, power and balance. Power means you have choices. So the most powerful person has the most choices. So when I think about power, it's you having choices, the capacity to choose, and the capacity to decide. That's what I mean by power. And when we talk about work-life balance, in this particular context, we really mean the difference between an individual's work and personal life. So what is the dynamic in between the two? That's the concept. That's where we are looking at. That's where we are coming from. I like what Dale Carnegie said, and he's one of my favorite authors. He said that life is very much what we make it. And since most of us spend the greater part of our lives at work, it follows that we should be making the best of working lives. Anyone can achieve greater satisfaction in both home life and their job by learning to integrate business, social, and personal fulfillment. And what he meant there is, look, you can find a way to create fulfillment in all those aspects. Your home life, your work life, your personal life. How do we do that to make sure that the 3 are truly balanced? And I like that image right there. You know, that there's both work and life are integrating. Talking about work and life, just to make sure I do not forget, just before this segment, my daughter's, my firstborn insisted that we first play just before this segment. She requested for a minute, but at least I knew that I had at least 5 minutes. So we played for those 5 minutes before coming here. And of course, as you can imagine, they didn't want me to leave. So that image of the laptop and the parent dancing with the baby or with the child is true. For me, I experienced it the last couple of minutes. So why work-life balance? A measured balance increases individual productivity, accountability, and commitment. So we know that if you do not refuel, then you will not be able to last the distance. Also, sometimes people say, but I don't have the time to pause and, to refresh or recharge my batteries. Well, I'll tell you something. That time is always there. It is always available. It depends on what a priority it has become for you. I'll give you an example. God forbid, not God forbid. I'm sure all of us have had moments where something suddenly happened in your life where you had to pause work and you had to be off work by hook or crook. It could, let me give you an example. For example, if you're not feeling well health-wise, and then you're forced to stay at home. Why? Now you know that your health is priceless, so you create the time. So the time is always available. It's what are we prioritizing ultimately? And you see, when you say that you do not have the time to create balance or to recharge or to refuel, it's just like someone driving for a distance. The fuel in their car can last them, let's say, 100 kilometers. But then they refuse to stop in between, say, you know what, I'll be losing time if I stop by the petrol station. Sooner rather than later, that fuel will run out and you won't last the distance. So when you stop over to refuel, that's not being stupid. That's not being naive. It's being smart, knowing that you need to refuel to last the distance. In the same way, your personal life, you need to have stopovers to refuel, because unlike the 200 kilometer distance, you and I don't know how long our life is going to be. And as such, if we don't know, then we need to consciously create stopovers to refuel, such that we can be able to last the distance. That employees who do not have a work-life balance tend to burn out more quickly than those with a balanced schedule. So that's something for you to remember. Sooner rather than later, then you burn out. And again, it goes back to that idea of, are you creating a stopover? Because sooner rather than later, you'll burn out. Employees who also pursue work-life balance, they also have a better mental welfare when it comes to life in general. And mental health is a biggie. And I believe that especially in these rapidly changing times, the idea, the thought around mental health or mental welfare is going to keep increasing in value. It also leads to improved relationships, because I'll tell you, when I'm refreshed, I feel I can create more connection and time with my wife and children. When I'm refreshed and energized, if I have a meeting, say, with my colleagues or staff members, I communicate better, which automatically improves the relationships. There's more fulfillment at the workplace or life in general when your life is fairly balanced. And just to also clarify one thing, I know that there's nothing like a perfect balance the way you're seeing this image. That I can guarantee you. So what I know is that sometimes you may find a heavier load on work, and then other times a heavier load on family. So in the end, it more or less balances out. It's not like at every one moment it's perfectly balanced as is. No, this is the ideal. Having said that, I know that for 99.99% of people out there, it's not tangible. It's not very practical that you'd have a perfect lifestyle like that. All I would like to say is to remind yourself and say, okay, there are those moments whereby this pendulum may swing more towards, say, family. Another time you're like, okay, I need to spend more time working out in the gym, something like that. So, but then at the end of the day, things should more or less balance out. That's the idea. The other key thing is with more work-life balance, there's more happiness. So here are some important statistics to note. 38% of people say their organization never or rarely makes it possible for employees to have a healthy balance between work and life. So just remember that. And for some of us who lead organizations or who are managers, that's a statistic worth paying attention to. Also, 51% of people say they have missed important life events because of inadequate work-life balance. I have, up until now, like say for my daughter who's actively at school, there's one moment that up to now really sticks with me. So I had a training, in the morning hours, then I had to dash to school. They had an activity, it was an end of term event. So somehow I delayed in that event that morning. And my daughter's turn for the activity came and said, no, Daddy has to be here when I'm presenting, when I'm doing this activity. Lo and behold, I delayed and they couldn't hold the event anymore. I mean, they couldn't hold it back anymore, any further. And she did what she had to do in my absence. So by the time I arrived, she had finished. Of course, I had to apologize. I watched the rest of the events, but her particular event, I missed it. And for me, up to now, I'm like, wow, possibly I could have left that event a little earlier, and I had a way to leave a little earlier. So, and by the way, the people where I was doing that work, up to now haven't paid me. Many months later, it's almost a year now. The point I'm making is sometimes we lose out what is extremely priceless, pushing for things that may not be that worthwhile. Now, in that moment, I believe I could have left a little earlier. The good news, though, is that from the time she was born up to now, at least I've never missed any other critical event in her life, so to speak. That's the only, it was a few minutes that I missed on that day. But the point I'm saying is, it was a very important moment in her life. And my challenge and desire for us is to remember that and say, you know what, there are important events in our lives and we need to remind ourselves of that. And for me, like for my daughter, I know it's extremely important because I know ultimately it impacts her confidence and self-esteem. That 53% of employees say a role that allows them to have a greater work-life balance and better personal well-being is very important to them. So employees do value that. And that's one of the reasons why at Success Africa, again, I'm not saying that this applies to you because, for example, I know one of us is in the hospitality industry, but like at Success Africa, unless we have events like these or actual training and all that, I made a conscious decision in that there's no work on Saturday because I want people to be able to know that I have that window for myself, because I know that that extra Saturday could give us some extra productive hours, no doubt about that. But then I value work-life balance. The other number to note is 68% of employees say poor work-life balance negatively impacts their morale and motivation at work. So that's something to also take note of. All right. All right, now before we go into mindset, The other key is mindset. 4 key mindsets that facilitate work-life balance. And by the way, just to give you an idea why I was talking about my daughter and why I'm extremely sensitive about such events is because of my work of coaching and the like. There's a young lady I was counseling, and one of the challenges, one of the scars she has in her life is that her dad promised to pick her up at school, and for some reason he didn't. And up to now, over 20 years later, she's never overcome that. So for me, I could say, okay, at least I appeared, okay? So that's why I'm very sensitive on these matters. So for us who are parents, especially for, if you're a parent or parents to be, please pay attention to your children. These things make a big difference. 4 key mindsets that facilitate work-life balance. These are mindsets to pay attention to. Number 1, 24 hours just like everyone else. Remember, time doesn't stretch. We all have 24 hours. Missing an H there, apologies, to do whatever we want to do. Time allocation should fit within 24 hours. Ensure balanced allocations as much as possible. Again, they may not be perfect. What I'm saying is they should be fairly balanced. I believe that's the word. The key word should be fairly balanced, okay? Also remember that better health is better than any amount of money. So do not burn yourself out. Don't attract chronic stress, for the cost of treating these mental and physical challenges are way beyond the amount you make. Because it sounds like a cliche in that there are some people who spend a certain amount of their lifetime lost in the work, making the money, and then they spend another couple of years spending the money they made to restore the health they lost, as an example. So when it comes to health, we know that it's priceless. You and I know that it's priceless. You can't put a price tag on your health. Having said that, that doesn't mean that money is bad. We have to find a balance. That's all. That's all I'm saying is, as you're making the money, please remember that you are the engine. And when I say engine, that's actually a line I usually use when I'm encouraging and motivating my prospects to enroll for coaching, for these kinds of wisdom. I tell them, look, you're telling me, oh, you have to spend money on this and that, but then you are the engine. So are you working on the engine to make sure that it's performing at its finest? And yesterday I got this image. I was reflecting, I was communing with God and listening. I was consulting over something. And the image that God brought to my life was, like a Ferrari car. A Ferrari is super fast. But guess what? That machine, besides having a great driver, it is always properly oiled. It has many people taking care of it. When it's on the racetrack, there are so many people waiting to be of help, to jump in and take care of it, because, to change the tires or, so for that machine to be at its finest, there has to be that attention to refine it, to refuel it, to make sure that everything is well oiled and functioning. So the health of the Ferrari car is going to determine the success or failure. In the same way, you and I, our health is going to determine how far we can succeed. Because I'll tell you, as of this recording, because of the crisis we are going through, so I had put a pause to my coach who was coming home 5 to 6 times a week, who used to do shadow boxing and sit-ups and, exercises outside. So I can tell you that the last couple of weeks, I can tell that my health my physical vitality has reduced a bit. So I'll find a way to up it up in his absence. So the point I'm saying is, when we are at our best physically, then a lot of other things benefit. This is a biggie, the mindset of replaceable, okay? That no matter how important you are replaceable. Remember that. One day when your health is gone, your employer will replace you. An employer wants a productive workforce, and an imbalanced individual isn't a productive one. So there are some people who behave and work as if they do not chip in or come in or take action as if the organization is going to come to an end. Wapi, sorry to shake your marbles. Something happened to you health-wise, they would find a replacement. That's life. Therefore, you better value your life. In fact, I've had stories of, when someone is passing, let's say someone has passed on, then the following day, the HR is under instruction to make sure that you put an advert. That's how things are. And therefore, once you know that you are replaceable, then you remember and remind yourself how you should take care of you, how valuable you are as an individual to you. Therefore, again, going back to that idea of the passion of me, be passionate about yourself. Please, all these other things you're doing, life will continue, can continue. Next, the other mindset that is very useful is I can't do it all alone. See, when you have this mindset, it will help you to delegate, to help you to say no to some tasks, and then you'll focus on what you can do and give others an opportunity to also shine. Because there are people who feel like everything should be them. Can someone do this? No, I'll take care of it. Can I say, no, I'll do it. Can I say, no, I'll do it. And there are people who behave that way out of insecurity, not because they want to work, but because they fear that, if someone gets to work the way they are working, then they might lose power. Then there are those who take on all these jobs because they know their allowances are attached, and in the end, they don't have a life. They are moving around like this, sleepy, half asleep. And I'm saying, please remember, you cannot do it all alone. So please remind yourself that it's okay to let some people shine, to let some people do certain things on your behalf, or, in unison or as the same team as you are, because then you also need a breather. Trust me, you need a breather, trust me. So these mindsets, once you have these mindsets, then it will be much, much easier then to adopt the other strategies and skill sets I'm going to talk about. Right, now let's look at the strategies. Here are 6 strategies for achieving work-life balance. So number 1, it starts with you defining what life-work balance means to you, okay? What are your big stones? What are the pebbles? What do you consider sand and water? List the things that you value most in the chronological order. What I mean by that, the idea of the big stones, I'm sure some of us have watched that movie whereby the illustration, whereby if this is your glass, there are a couple of options. If you put in water first, then you have less stones and to put in. If you put in the big stones first, then it will be easier to put in the pebbles and the sand and then lastly water. So, and the illustration, the idea behind that is, please start with your big stones, the big moves. So one of the things I did this morning was exercise. That was one of my big stones. So in your life, you need to determine, what are my big stones? What are the big stones and what are the pebbles? The big stones, those are the big ideas, the things that are most important to you. The stones, the pebbles are the smaller things in your life. And you need that clarity. If you're watching this recording, I want you to pause right here and write down, what are your big stones? What are those big moves that are crucial for you in your life right now that you need to pay attention to? And what are the small pebbles? So you need to clarify that so that then you know where to pay your most attention. So also you need to work-life balance weekly goals. You need to think about that. What do you intend to do for your health, your spirituality, your family, your work, your relationship this week? It takes a conscious effort to have that balance. So that you know, okay, I'm going to spend this amount of time working out. About 2 days ago, it must have been 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I met a lady walking in the neighborhood, and I asked her, I said, okay, how many rounds do you walk around? Said, oh, I don't walk rounds, I walk time. Said, okay, how much time? Doctor said 1 hour. For me, I aim for 1 hour. And I was like, okay, that's a smart way. So meaning for her, 1 hour of exercise, of walking. And by the talking about walking, when I talk about exercise, it does not have to be vigorous stuff. Just walking is enough. A medical doctor told me that just walking is good enough exercise. And I have a friend of mine, though, who told me that if you can do swimming, that's even better. But walking, when we say exercise, it does not mean training yourself and all this. So long as you do ample walking, that's a good base to start from. So the point I'm making is you need to think through and plan for your week, how it looks like, and how much time you will spend on these different activities. It will make the balancing act much, much easier. Okay. Technology. So here is the key. Technology is here, and whoever allows it to take control of their lives, they lose balance. They burn out and they live a stressed out life. Control social media usage, limit TV, manage browsing, and be in charge of technology. There are people whereby technology is in charge of them rather than the other way around. I mean, I've been in bathrooms where you hear someone, the phone goes off and then they're like, hello? And they are susuling, and you are thinking, boss, can you first finish one job? Do one job effectively first. So it's as if they don't pick the phone call at that time, it's the end of life. And I'm here to propose to you, no, no, no. Life can continue without you being with your phone for 2 hours. In fact, up until recently, because of the current dynamics, because I knew that some of my clients may need urgent support or help, and it has happened a couple of times, Mondays, my phone was always off all day. I had to change that rule, because of what's going on, knowing that I have clients who might need urgent help given what's going on in the world. So, and guess what? Life continues. Monday was always my full day off, and that meant also the phone totally off all day. And life has been okay. So when I see someone feeling like they can't be away from their phone for an hour, I'm like, what are you talking about? So, and it's also, there are people who do what they call gadgets diet or something like that, where you get a day of the week whereby no gadgets at all, no phone, no TV, no laptop. I mean, because these gadgets really overwhelm us, then we are just engrossed there, and we have a bigger connection with our gadgets than the connection we have with human beings and our creator. The other thing that I've also noticed, which we need to be very careful about, is I see people in a home who are connecting more with people outside the home than the people themselves. So meaning someone is spending more time on this phone connecting with people out there and less time with people in here at home. I've seen dates, boyfriend and girlfriend, they are on the phone. What kind of date is that? Come on. Or a husband and wife, they are out. One of my coaching clients who is in here said that they sent me a text message when I told them that I was going out with my wife, and they wanted to see whether I would respond as a test, because they know this is something I preach. If you are away with your wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, what on earth are you doing with your phone? Be with your wife, be with your husband, be with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh, by the way, I passed that test. And that client of mine said, okay, now you pass the test. I wanted to see whether you are living what you are preaching. Because I believe I responded like the following day or something like that. So please, gadgets, technology, they should not take over. Delegate or work in teams as much as you can. Let go of some tasks. Give them to your colleagues where applicable. Ask for help. Part of your strategy should be delegation. One of the biggest strategies of work-life balance is delegation. And now there's also the concept of outsourcing. So, and when we talk about outsourcing, let's also remember that there are so many websites online right now. I've engaged people in Philippines, in India, in the US online. And you know what's amazing? Sometimes tasks get executed in minutes like that. Boom. Like there is an app I wanted upgraded or something, you know, someone executed it in minutes in a different country online. So when we talk about delegation, it's also about you thinking. And when we say delegation, let me give you a simple example. So you might, for some of us, you might find that me, I can do everything myself at home. Yeah, but what is your hour worth? You'd rather give it to someone who's less skilled in terms of these high-level skills, someone who would be happy to be engaged with your money, and then you use that time to do other productive things. So getting like extra house help is not being extravagant or lazy, it's being smart. You can use that time now to watch a movie or to chill out. Also, when we're at work, to delegate, that one I've talked about already. Focus on what matters most. There is no work-life balance where there is no work. Get productive first. Okay, that's the key. Allocate more time to the things that matter most, eliminate or reduce what doesn't add value to you. So there are things that add value, there are things that do not add value. And therefore, you have to spend as much time as possible on things that add value. So like this work I'm doing, it's one of the most valuable things I can do in life, period. Because this is my calling, this is my work. I know I'm adding value to people. So doing this, I do it joyfully. And then when I do this kind of work, if I lounge or stretch my legs or whatever it is, I'm at ease and at peace. Because I know I've already done productive stuff. So you need to figure out what your productive work is. Do it. And then eliminate those things that don't add value. And by the way, when I say things that add value, sleep is one of the most valuable things you can do. Just remember that. Just remember that. If you can create more time for sleep, that's one of the most valuable things you can do for yourself, period. Multitasking, avoid multitasking and focus on the task at hand. This I talked about under time management, so I want to go deep on that. But with the relationships, what are them if you want them to flourish? I've given you the brief about my family. Okay, some of you know it anyway. I'm from a very humble background, and as such, I have many people who call me for help, for financial help. Now, I've had those characters whereby the moment you see a phone call, you know, hello, how are you? How is life? Now, I was wondering whether you can help me with this. You know what's going to happen once I say now. And then there are also there's another cousin of mine. For him, for every 10 phone calls, only one of them would be seeking for help. The other 9, oh, how are you? How are my sisters? How are my daughters? How are they? Okay, I was calling to check on you. Off. So with that one, he was watering the relationship. You know, some of us could have had me quote this book. I've never read it, but I like the title. You know, it says that dig your well before you're thirsty. Don't wait when you're thirsty and then you have to dig the well. By then it's too late. It's by having a care. You dig the well so meaning you need to nurture those relationships when you don't need them yet. So that when you need them, then you don't feel guilty, you don't feel queasy about asking for help or support. So please nurture those relationships, and healthy relationships also will enrich your life. So Sylvia is asking, I didn't understand on the nurturing of relationships. What I meant by that is, if you do not, when I say nurturing, it means, can you add value to the relationship? Can you find out how someone is doing? Can you, if you found a useful article that you feel is in alignment with what they are looking for, you can send them that article. If there is a need, is there a way you can help them? So meaning you're doing things that are adding value to relationships, because guess what? When you nurture those relationships, then those people will also nurture you. Or when you need to delegate or seek for help, they will also automatically be willing to help you. So that's what I meant by nurturing of relationships. Sylvia, please confirm if that makes sense, what I've just said. Good, thank you for the gift of life. All right. So now let's look at the skill sets required. Here are steps to a great work-life balance. Step 1, invent efficient ways of working. Okay. So you have to find a way to do that, because when you do, oops, what happened? When you invent efficient ways of working, then when you do that, lots of exciting things happen. One of those exciting things that will happen to you is you will eliminate what we call fatigue. You limit extreme fatigue if you find efficient ways of working. There's a lady who appears in our executive communication mastermind. She appears once a month. She's American but lives in Morocco. Brilliant, brilliant woman. Brilliant. She's a professor also and an entrepreneur and many things. So she appears once a month. And this is what she told me. She told me, I've never heard of this. She told me that she types around 120 words a minute. And she told me that's one of my secrets to productivity. I was like, what? What? She says, but she can even push it even further to even up to 150 if my memory serves me correctly, but when she has to correct some things. But at 120, she can type comfortably 120 words a minute with no mistakes and all that. So that's her way. When I grew up, I want to be like her. That's something I know. For example, if I figured out to do it, then that would, because I write a lot, so it would really buy me a lot of time. So it's you to figure out what are those things that you can invent. That now that I'm talking about it, I was thinking, okay, I could take typing lessons or something like that. Number 2, protect your day off jealously. And let me also add, and your leave days. This bothers me. I mean, I've had stories, and I've shared this in all organizations I've spoken to. There are those characters whereby when it's leave time, they go home, let's say for 2 days, and then they have to come back to work. You're like, what are you doing here? They're saying to check email. Are you kidding me that you can't figure out a way to check email from home? But I'll tell you my suspicion. My suspicion is there are certain human beings who do not know how to live outside work. They have no idea. So when they're on leave, they get bored. They're like, now what do I do? And I'm sure we all know such characters. And I'm saying, no, number 1, learn how to live without work. Number 2, when I say protect your day off jealously, I mean your phone is off, as an example, put it in silence and just make sure that people do not interrupt your day. Okay. So one of the coaching clients, I shared that tip with her and did that and talked to her team And now to the last time we spoke, at least she told me that, look, that day now she uses it to do her own things and it's more refreshing and energizing. So once you get your day off, you train people that, you know what, on these days, I do not work, or that's my day off. Then they know. And when you say your day off, it could be a weekend, it may not be a Monday, like for me, who has more control over my time, but whichever day it is, manage it, protect it jealously, because that's the time you need to refresh yourself. If there is one tip I can give you, that's it. You at least need that day to recharge. The same way you take your car for servicing, you need to service your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. So you could say on this day, that's the day for me. This is me time. So we need me time. The challenge is we have a lot of time for other people, for other things, for other projects, and less time for us. And I'm here to challenge you and say, look, you deserve you. You deserve to spend time with yourself. You deserve your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit deserves more. Deserves more than what you're giving to yourself. And here is another concept, another mindset that will be useful. Because we all understand the idea of work-life balance, but sometimes it's just the mindset, the attitude. So if I can change your thinking around this, then the rest will be possible. Here is another mindset that I forgot to share with you, which has served me for many years. In that when the more you take care of yourself, the more you'll be able to take care of others. Please write that one down. The more you take care of yourself, the more you'll be able to take care of others. That's why on the aeroplane, or when you're on the plane, they say, okay, in case of a shortage of oxygen, there will be oxygen masks. And they say, if you're having a baby, please put your own oxygen mask first before helping the baby. It might sound like, what? The baby should be first. Yeah, but then if you're not oxygenated, you will not help the other party. So same thing. If you do not take care of you, you will not be able to take care of others. Next is release the guilt of saying no. Some of my private coaching clients who are part of the mastermind, that's something I've had to drill into their brains and hearts. Some of them have gotten them, some of them are still almost there, but they have improved tremendously in that aspect. You have to be comfortable with the idea of saying no. You see, before I became 40, I would almost always find it extremely difficult to say no for people who are seeking financial help, as an example, or seeking my intervention. Now, since crossing to the 4th floor, I'm much wiser now. So it's okay. Sometimes I say no. Most times I say yes, but now I also find it okay to say no when I'm not in position to, or don't feel like, or when someone needs my attention in one way or the other and I'm not in position to, I don't feel like, or whatever it is, say no. By the way, even if it's your day off and someone asks, are you free? It's okay for you to say, no, I have some engagements. You're not lying. You're engaged with yourself. Part of your engagement today is to watch a movie. Part of your engagement today is to play with your children. Part of your engagement today is to sleep. Part of your engagement today is to read a book. Part of your engagement today, you plan to be with your creator. Part of your engagement today was to just goof off. Part of your engagement today was to watch some, these comedies to relax your mind. Part of your engagement today was to just move away from work. That is your engagement. So it's okay to say, sorry, today I'm engaged and I'm not in position to come in. Period. You're not lying. You're not lying. But some of us, are you free today? Yes. The moment you provide your time to the world and say, I am free, trust me, there are so many people looking forward to grab a piece of your time. So please, it's okay to say no and not feel guilty because you're valuable enough. Just the same way engaging with another party or someone else is valuable, guess what? You're even more valuable. So you see, part of my job is to shift your mindset and attach extreme worthiness to you. So for example, when Monday, I would switch off my phone and people would be like, what, Monday? How possible is that? Are you sure? Are you really? Yeah. Who says that a day off has to be weekend? Monday. Both are your support system. The support system could be your friends, your spiritual advisors, your coaches. I know there are some people here who are part of the mastermind. Some of them are in one, some of them are in both of them. And that's part of the support system. I also have my own coaches. That's part of my support system. So you need to expand your support system. You're not yet Superman or Superwoman. Even Superman or Superwoman, they need a support system. Guess what? They need food. Manage your time efficiently. It takes time, but it's doable. So this I had hinted on earlier, and strategies, but that's the key. How are you managing your time? Because these things I'm telling you to goof off and all that, it's easier to goof off or to relax when you know you've already produced stuff. When you know you've done the most important things. It's much easier that way. So these things I'm telling you might be difficult for you to execute if you know that the last couple of days you didn't do the required things, you weren't efficient. So you need to revisit. Some of us who are getting the recordings of this, please revisit the segment on time management so that you can do the productive things. Then relaxing or chilling out will be way, way easier. Next, seek help. It is okay. Since I'm a guy, I will speak comfortably about this. Guys, it's okay to seek help. Sometimes guys, we struggle with this because of ego. I mean, I've had stories of where a guy, when he's driving and he's lost, when the partner says or the wife says, can we ask? I'll figure it out. You get lost. Can we stop and ask? I'll figure it out. Come on. Seek help. Ask. Asking is smartness. So seek help. It's okay. It does not make you less of a man to seek for help. That's being smart. So when you seek help and someone supports you, then you can have more time now. Take care of yourself. So that time you're not wasting, that time you spent not seeking for help could have saved you an extra 1 hour, an extra 30 minutes. An extra 30 minutes of sleep makes a difference. Do you know that, just taking a nap for 10 minutes makes a big difference? Even 5 minutes, just closing your eyes for 5 minutes. So those 5 minutes that someone saves you, you can close your eyes and that recharges your body or your system. So seek help. It's okay, especially for the guys out there, including the birthday boy attending today. So someone is asking about protect your day off jealously. And what I mean by that really with the number 2 is, it may not be a day off, it could be an hour off, it could be half a day off. What I mean by that is, for example, when it's your day off, when you leave your phone on, as an example, then you are sure that there is someone who's going to call you. Once they call you, now you're engaged. Now they are telling you, go check this, or they engage you in Kabozi. Then all of a sudden, your attention is on them, not on you. And I'm saying, this is your time for you. Please spend time with you. I cannot emphasize that enough. So that's what I mean by protecting your day jealously. And part of it is you need to educate people and say, on this day or time, I'm not available, okay? And if you find that you cannot use the day off, if you find like you're an employee and that day off may not make sense to people, tell them, you know what, that day I'm fully engaged on that day, or I'm fully engaged during that time with something else, please, I'm not available, okay? And again, you're not lying, but you're engaged. It's just that they may not understand the idea of day off. So let me see. All right. So let's look at mastery. Mastery is about you owning this information. Number 1 is list at least 5 life dimensions. And when I say life dimensions, it's about different areas of your life. For example, it could be health, family, spirituality. That's what I mean by a life dimension. Then set at least a goal for 2 weeks in each one of those dimensions. so that at least you have a weekly goal around that particular dimension in your life. For example, so for me, the biggies when it comes to work-life balance, the biggies I see usually where we miss the boat, so to speak, based on personal experience, what I've noticed in my personal life and in the people I coach and all that. It's usually around health, family, the amount of time we are spending with family members. Like I noticed, like with my kids, it had also started dwindling again, so I had to, now I've upped it again. And then the spirituality, yes, those three, usually those three. So family, health, spirituality. Usually you find people forget those areas. So you need to set goals around that. Implement using these strategies given in the session, of course, for you to really do this. And part of what you could also do is, in addition to this, is you could have a work-life balance journal so that you track yourself. How are you doing in these 5 dimensions of life that you've mentioned? Your health, your career, your spirituality, your family, and all these other areas, okay? All right, so when you go to your breakout rooms, this is what you're going to discuss. You're meant to discuss what did you find most useful in this presentation and how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business. So that's what you're going to discuss. And in your meeting rooms, please time yourselves and see to it that I'll be getting you back into the room at 17:50. All right. So you should receive you should see a message on your screen inviting you to a breakout room. Kindly accept, get into the room, discuss those 2 questions. Let me see if there is something that someone wants to talk to me about. Okay, so this could be a comment. I will respond to that during All right, so here, let me respond to some questions here. Godfrey says, as we learn this, it would work well for the self-employed. For those that are employed and their bosses do not have much knowledge, it may not work until they are also enlightened. Some bosses cannot even take it to get your phone off during a weekend or even late at night. They feel it is their right to call anytime since they pay you. You're enlightening them on this would help to make working environments a better place and support retention. Yeah, thank you, Godfrey. Sometimes I raise these issues when I'm invited to speak about this topic. Secondly, I also believe that even if you're an employee, you can find creative ways to communicate this. For example, if you have a boss that calls you late in the night and you have a family as an example, you could say, look, I would really appreciate it if, for the sake of my family, because it really annoys my wife or husband, because I've never heard of a spouse who's happy that their spouse is being called so late in the night. So you know what, my spouse is unhappy when I receive calls very late in the night. So you say, would you kindly do me a favor for the sake of the happiness of my family to make sure if you have something to let me know, you let me know earlier, something like that. Then for those who don't understand that your phone can be off, hey, you can communicate and say, look, we were advised that it's good for us to really be super productive. It's important to also get those moments off. So if you're to get the most out of me, you say, look, I can do this. And yet at the same time, if you really want to get the most out of me, I also need time for me, then I can definitely give you more value. So again, you're speaking, you show them why you having your time off or time for you is useful for the organization or the company. That's how you go about it. I remember there was another question earlier. I don't know whether it's colleagues. If you help me type it, I would appreciate it. Team, if you find the questions which were asked before Godfrey's, which I've just responded to, then you paste it in there was 1 or 2 questions posted earlier. Justin, how do you manage minimizing engagements with technology, emails, WhatsApp, when the nature of work is quite IT-based, including alerts of urgent meetings? So, Justin, the trick is, and I know for you, you're in the employment category, so the trick is, it really takes discipline and dogged discipline. That's what I really mean. So you could, for example, if you're in the employment world, for example, you could choose and say, you know what, Sunday from let's say 3 p.m. I'm going to switch my phone off. I'm going to put my phone in the bedroom or somewhere in the bag, hide it in the bag. No laptop, it is time for me. Then you do what refreshes you and energizes you. That's how you can do it. So it's really about you stepping away from the technology. You hide your phone, put your laptop off, then do what refreshes you and energizes you. Let me know if that makes sense. Betty says, merci, Ethan, Success Africa. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome, Betty. Goretti said, kindly share tips on how to create days off when you are self-employed without feeling guilty that you're losing out on something during your absence. Yeah, so the best way I know how, Goretti, is to coach and mentor people to do those things which you feel that you can do. So when you do that, then you can consciously know that, okay, someone is doing that for me. Therefore, when you are asleep or hanging out with your children, and I know you love your family dearly, then you're not feeling guilty. And also to remind yourself, just the same way your businesses are important, you are even more important. You are the engine. Take it that you're refueling so that you can drive these businesses forward. Okay. Let me know if that helps, Goretti. Patricia says, let me take this over to appreciate those of you who dedicate your time to give feedback. We really appreciate you. Giving feedback is part of self-assessment in a kind of way. Thank you, Patricia, for saying that. Yeah, for being kind. Yeah, you giving us feedback is absolutely important and invaluable to us. And it's valuable also for you to, because it asks you some questions about what you learned, and it's extremely valuable for us, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Patricia, for your emotional intelligence to mention that. How do you deal with a spouse who's always on their phone? Emily, you give them feedback. So I believe you attended the session on feedback. You tell them, you know what, sweetheart, I would really appreciate it if we spent more time together rather than on the phone, because I really feel that we can connect even at a deeper level. But you can first ask a question. I know, how come you're most times on the phone rather than with me? The kids, by the way, are very smart with this. My daughter usually plays the guilty game. So when you're doing something and she wants your attention, you say, so you mean that is more important than me? Of course, you cannot do that with your spouse. Don't appreciate that. But I mean, communicate to them, give them feedback. Don't just keep quiet. It's not healthy. Talk to them. Godfrey says, much of HR work requires interfacing with staff and helping resolve their queries during the day. If you schedule hours to meet them, sometimes they see it as rude. Thus, you have to carry work home or work late and interfere with home business. How do you manage this in your opinion? So, earlier question. Okay, great. Thank you, Godfrey. So the thing is, I really believe in educating people. So show them how and why it's important to schedule those things, and you tell them, you know what, when you apply, when you appear at the scheduled times, are more mentally, emotionally, spiritually tuned in and switched on to give you the best of my best time. If it is outside, it becomes a challenge because I have other responsibilities I have to fulfill, and this is one of them. So if you kindly do that, it will be very useful and you'll get the most out of me. If you want the best out of me, please follow the time schedule. So you coach them again. The trick is show them why it's important for them to follow the timeline. All right, great. So